All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back again with another Jay Slater video. Hope every single one of you are doing well. Make sure we hit that like button and subscribe to this channel if you are newly watching. Plenty of videos uploading. But what I want to dive into is this, ladies and gentlemen. This picture right here, this was sent to me via email. Big up the guys that are sending me emails. Make sure send me an email if you've got any information in regards to the Jay Slater case or anything that you want me to talk about or content that you would like me to create for the channel. You can just drop me an email. Use the email that you can see on the screen and get in contact with me that way, ladies and gentlemen. But I want to start with this, a real hero. Chris Tenerife calling Brad a real hero. We remember we were being told by Chris Tenerife that Brad's the hero. You have to ask yourself, why is Brad a hero? Why? Why is Brad a hero? See, Brad, the best friend of Jay, decided not to go to Jay's location. And there was nothing that Brad done that made him a hero. As far as we can see, Brad went into hiding for the first, say, week to 2 weeks of this all happening. No document, no audio from Brad in regards to his conversation with Mark Williams Thomas. He done the interview with Isla, but in the interview, he didn't give us anything other than a head movement about the whirly roads and kind of pointing in a certain direction where I believed he was saying Jay's body was indirectly. It's funny how I had that feeling because all of a sudden, Chris Tenerife is calling Brad and hero, and he's basically saying that it was Brad's information in his interview that led to him understanding where Jay really was, basically. But that doesn't make any sense to me how it would have taken for Brad to have done his interview for Chris to have known where to be looking. And the reason I say that is because this is a Chris who already had access to Jay's friends. See, before Brad done the Isla interview, Chris would have been able to reach out to Brad. Chris would have been able to reach out to Lucy. Chris would have been able to reach out to Brandon. But for some reason, he doesn't do none of that. He waits for Brad to do this interview and then says Brad's a hero based off this interview. Although Brad doesn't really give us anything clear cut in the interview to prove that he's a hero. What does he do? What does he say? Jay has sent his location asking for help, and for some reason, none of them go to the location. Or was they all at the location together? Did they all see Jay slip and fall? Is that the reason why Brad was having nightmares? And is that the reason why Rocky recently come out on the live stream to say, you know, Brad's mental health has been affected for the past 12 months? He didn't actually say that Brad's mental health's been affected by the trolls or the content creators. No. He actually said it was the media. And then you have to ask yourself this question. Why is Brad speaking with Rocky? They only knew each other for a few days, right? So on the basis of them only knowing each other for a few days, as a friend of Jay's, I wouldn't be able just to go to the last people that he was last seen with and start acting like they're my brethren, not really knowing the real ins and outs of what could have taken place that day. See, for all Brad knew, Rocky and Abe could have done something to Jay. He doesn't know. He can't say that he fully trusts Rocky and Abe to the point where he believes every single word they say. See, when you think about how Jay mysteriously went missing, how the story has been painted, as a friend, I would question everything. I don't care how many hours I've spent with a person, I will be questioning everything that they're telling me. I know my boy. I arrived to this country with my boy. We're on holiday for the first time together. We've been rolling for years. I know him better than anyone knows him. So when I hear this story coming from Rocky and Ayub, can I really get down with believing a word that they're telling me? Nah, not really. Unless you're telling me that the story that we've been told isn't the story that happened. And it brings us back to what we've got here on the screen, because we have Chris saying, a real hero. And then it brings you back to the question, well, how is Brad a hero? What did Brad do to define himself as a hero? You look at the comments. Let's look at these comments. Kieran, who says, hero who leaves his best mate in such a state. And then Rachel responds. And she responds with, what do you know, with a hammer emoji. Why would Rachel leave a hammer emoji? A hammer emoji. Look at the dates as well, ladies and gentlemen. The dates, I mean, the date that Rachel left her comment would have been in August, but the date that this would have been posted by Chris would have been around the 19th of July. So a few days after Jay's body had been found. And he is saying that Brad is a hero. But back to Rachel's comment. She says to Kieran, what do you know, with a hammer emoji. Now, why does that make sense to us, ladies and gentlemen? That makes sense to us because of what Marnie Taylor told us. Her nan had caught an altercation on CCTV where she see people walking with hammers, or what she thought could look like hammers. And this was next to the B&B. This CCTV image would have been confiscated from Marnie Taylor, and it was never seen again. So if we go by what Marnie Taylor says, and there was an altercation on that CCTV where people were walking with tools that looked like hammers, and we connect it with what Rachel was saying here, what do you know, with a hammer emoji, it means that we've been told a story that's not entirely true. There has 100% been a cover-up, but who are they covering for? If Rachel is insinuating Brad was the person that had the hammer, why did he have a hammer? Who was the threat? Like, literally tell me, who was the threat? Who could it have been? Rocky? Couldn't have been Rocky, because Rocky says he spoke to Brad. There's also a screenshot that was sent over to me of Brad in one of Rocky's lives, in the comments of one of Rocky's lives. It makes me question everything. What truly happened at that B&B? Why does Brad feel that Rocky and A are his boys? Unless there's a part to the story that they're not telling us that involved Jay getting hurt by a third party, but that still doesn't make any sense to me. It still doesn't make any sense why the likes of Brandon didn't come forward. It still doesn't make any sense why they would have needed to make it look like Jay had stolen a Rolex and then made a second version calling it an AP and he's with 2 Somali kids. So there's something that does connect to that AP and the fact that it's been changed to 2 Somali kids. And that was Mark Williams Thomas releasing the name Johnny Vegas. I think it was purposely done. Not Mark releasing the name Johnny Vegas, but them giving Mark the name Johnny Vegas. And there was messages to a lady called Francesca from Chris, which kind of insinuate that it was purposely done. And we are going to be back, ladies and gentlemen, with another video where we are going to look at those messages, because we've got every single message. And now we're at a point where we understand this case clearer than we ever did before. Those messages are going to make more sense than they ever did before. But for now, I just want to leave it here on this. Rachel telling us what do we know with a hammer emoji. Was Brad really in Hero? Was Brad really at the Airbnb trying to defend Jay? If he was, who is he trying to defend him from? Who was the threat? If that is the case, then what really happened to Jay? What really happened to him? Why was he in the mountains? See, this basically opens up a whole new can of worms. It takes us down a whole new road. Remember what Rachel said in her live stream? If the truth needs to come out, it will come out. I mean, what did she mean by that? Like, if the truth needs to come out, it will come out. Like, what do you mean? I thought the truth was it was an accidental fall in the mountains. I thought that was the truth. Clearly not. Especially now that we have this message where Rachel implies more happens than it just being an accident. There's a few things that don't sit right with me, ladies and gentlemen, and we are going to keep this very, very short and simple and just look at pieces carefully to try and make sense of things. And that's what we're going to do with this case until we put those missing pieces together. I know the trolls are going to hate. Yeah, the trolls going to hate. We can appreciate the trolls are always going to hate. Just keep hating. Keep coming in, keep clicking, keep viewing, keep disliking, keep clipping and posting things on TikTok. I mean, literally keep the case alive. Literally just keep the case alive, trolls. Keep doing what you're doing, because that's all you're doing. When you feel like you're trolling us on platforms that we don't even really use, just know you are responsible for keeping this case alive. So keep doing what you're doing. But either way, we are going to leave it there. I want you guys to leave all of your thoughts and all of your comments down below. Why was Chris calling Brad a hero? What did Brad do to deserve that title? Because based on the story, based on the narrative that we know, I have to be real, Brad was a coward, straight up coward. Didn't do nothing after 1:10 to prevent Jay from going up to the mountains and falling off a cliff. He actually went into that courtroom and claims they got split up. He didn't take responsibility. He wasn't accountable for his actions that night. No. He went in there like a wimp, like a coward, and he told the world that he doesn't know what happened to Jay because after 1:10, they were split up. But Brad's the hero, guys. Brad's the hero. It seems like they wanted to paint a picture that Brad, Lucy, and Brandon, nothing wrong with them. They're all good guys. But Abe and Rocky, yeah, they're the questionable ones. Although they never done anything to my son, I want you guys to look at them as the questionable ones. And it was Duncan Smith that kind of opened my eyes to that this morning when I was watching his video. He made a lot of sense of that. It's so true. We don't want to investigate what truly happens to Jay, because if we truly investigate what happened to Jay, things that we don't want to come out will have to come out. And it will paint Jay to be someone that we don't want him to look like. And that is exactly the reason as to why there was no investigation into this case. The reason as to why there is an agenda to try and silence people that want to continue talking about this case. This isn't about protecting young children or families that go through this in the future. No, this is just about protecting the crooks and silencing the people who families are reaching out to, who are asking for their help. No, we'd rather silence those people. We don't want families to use those guys for their knowledge, for their wisdom, for their platforms. No, we don't want that. But anyway, just leave all your thoughts and comments down below. Plenty more videos uploading. Don't go anywhere. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're newly watching, turn those notification bells on, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the next one.